we are, verse 14. Who would like to read 14? Who wants to read? Okay, Dr. Vera or Yomar, one of you guys can go ahead and read since there's no volunteers.
Okay.
Yomar's
Behaya imlo kafatsta ba vishilachta lenafsha umachor lo timche rena bakesef
Kasef?
lotit amaid bakasef lotit amaid bah
Amel?
tit amir lotit amir bah Tachat asher anita.
Good. Okay. So let's look at this. And this one's ka, right?
Sorry, inita. Sorry. Inita.
Okay. Tin karena, right? Also ka. Very good. Okay. So, well, you're chomping the bit. I didn't even realize you had started. I was still making jokes. Okay, great. So 14. So vehaya. What's that mean? Vehaya. Anybody?
Then it shall be.
Okay. Good. And I'm going to let Yomar and Dr. Vera, since we have only a little bit of class left, you guys can comment as you like, okay? This will help us also to get through the parasha quickly. So vehaya and or
It shall be.
okay, so in this case, yeah. And it shall be im. What's im mean?
If.
If, yeah, if. If lo
Not.
chafatzta. You guys know the verb chafatz? Do you remember your Psalm 1? You have a noun from this actually in Psalm 1. Cheftso. What's cheftso mean?
Delight.
Yeah, his delight, right? Chefetz is delight. So this is just the verb with the same meaning. So if lo chafatzta, if you do not delight, if you are not pleased, bah. What's bah? Bah. And Yomar and Doc, you can speak up too, don't worry. Bah.
Her.
With her.
With her, right?
In her.
But probably with is better, right? So you guys know it could mean in, right? But this doesn't really make a lot of sense. You're not pleased in her. So with is a good choice. You're not pleased with her. The shilachta. Okay. What's that?
You will send her.
Say it again, Yomar.
And you will send her.
Okay, that's good. Let's do a little bit better than and. Instead of and, how should we translate this vav?
Then.
Then,
Then you
good.
will.
Good. Then you will send her out. So notice this is which binyan is this verb, guys? Do you see the binyan? What's the verbal form?
Shilakta.
What's the verbal form? What's the
Piel.
binyan? Yes, Piel. Very good. You notice it's Piel, right? So we have the dagash in the middle, right? The dagash and the chirek. These are indicators of Piel. So Piel is what? Intensive, right? Shalach is to send, but shilach is to send out. So context is king. If we're talking about a king, for example, sending out Avraham and his wife from Egypt, it can mean to expel, like to expel from your land, to banish, right, from the land. You're sending them out of the land, right? In the case of a man sending out his wife, this means to divorce her. To divorce her. In fact, because of the double meaning of this, to send out, there's some confusion among the rabbis in Exodus. When Moses and Tzipporah, when they meet Aharon, his brother, in the desert, remember, Hashem sends Aharon to meet him. And then afterwards it says that Moshe, that he shalach, he sends Tzipporah out of there. He sends her back to Midian. And so some of the rabbis think this means he divorced her, right? Which would make it really awkward later on when her father-in-law brings her to the camp of the Bnei Israel, right? And he says, look, here's your wife and here's your children, right? And Moses is supposed to say what? She's not my wife, I divorced her. Now, I don't think this can be the case. That such a tzaddik, a humble man like Moses, he's just going to divorce her? And he has children with her? He's going to be so crass? I don't think that can be possibly correct. So I tend to favor what the other rabbis say is that, no, even though it's the verb that in context can mean divorce, it's literally saying he sent her out of that land, out of that region, back to safety. right? And we actually have a midrash from this. The midrash rabbah, it says that Aaron says, "Who are these?" Right? We see who are these, and Moses says, "This is my wife, and these are my kids." And Aaron says, "What are you, meshuga? Are you crazy? You know, we're trying to get out of Egypt, and you're bringing more in." And so that it's Aaron who recommends that Moses sends them back to safety, and later they can be reunited. So context really tells you what this verb is saying. So then you shall divorce her, lenafsha. What's lenafsha mean?
Her soul to her life.
Soul.
Yeah.
Her soul. Her
Yeah.
soul.
Her soul.
Okay. So
Nefesh.
for or to. So this can mean soul. I heard somebody say life. Okay. Who remembers what this can mean in the Levitical literature, in the priestly literature? Let's get all the meanings. It can mean a person. When we have Torah commands that talk about just a nefesh, that means it applies to both men and women. Okay. It can mean a corpse. Nefesh can be a corpse. So if you come across the field and you find a nefesh, usually it'll say something like nefesh chalila, like a pierced whatever, then that's a corpse. In the Psalms, we learn from Ugaritic, it can mean throat, or neck, right? So probably in this case, context, it's something more like person, right? So you shall send her out for her own person, right? Like send her out by herself. She's free, right? Because context is going to tell us what's next. U machor lo tim karena. Okay, so what's that? U, and machor. This is an infinitive absolute. Okay, infinitive absolute, right? So it's a strong meaning. Lo, and then here's the same verb. Yep, look, we see the same verb here. Makar. Do you guys know what makar means?
To sell.
That's
Sold.
right. That's
Sold.
right. That's right.
Sell.
Makar is to sell. To sell. In the kal binyan. Okay? Kal. Okay? What's this one? What's this binyan? Is it kal or Piel?
Piel.
Makor sa makor.
Because of the
Kal.
dagesh in ka.
Okay, so
Kal.
one person says Piel, a couple others say kal. Okay, so the reasoning that someone's saying Piel is there's a dagesh. But let's examine that dagesh. What kind of dagesh is that? Is it a dagesh forte or might it possibly be
Timkor,
lene?
makor.
That's the dagesh forte.
How do you know that it's a forte? Is it impossible for this one to be a lene?
Preceded by a short, by a
Because we could not have a triples, because that will turn to be a triple swa. We have a
Very
swa in the
nice,
mem,
very
then
nice.
double swa.
You gave a more advanced answer than I expected. So it cannot be dagesh forte, right? It cannot. So it must be lene. First of all, this is a begad kifat letter, so it can be lene. It can be forte or lene. And then Doc gave a great analysis. The reason that it cannot be forte, cannot be forte or chazak, is because if it were, what would this represent? We'd have mem. Okay, so we'd have team, kaf, and I'm going to expand it if it's a forte. Team, ka, right? So it's not possible, like Doc says, because if you do that, you end up having 3 schwas in a row. Not allowed. So great analysis. So it must be lene. That means it must be lene. So if it's a lene, it's not Piel. So our binyan is what? Kal.
Kal.
Kal. Very good. Okay. So tim karena. So umachor lo tim karena. So literally it's something like, so indeed you shall not sell her. That's what that na is, right? The a is our inseparable preposition acting in the accusative, the object, right? And then this noon, what happens when we put a suffix on the end of a verb, oftentimes we will just affix a noon there because it makes it easier to pronounce. It's like a connecting noon, something like that, right? You see? So for example, the famous one that I like to bring up to you guys, Eli, Eli, lama azaftani, right? It's not azaftai, right? It's azaf ta ni, right? So the noon just makes it easier to put that e suffix. My God, why have you abandoned me? So same thing happened here. The noon, it just makes it easier to pronounce, okay? So lo timkarena, you shall not sell her. Bakasef. Okay? What's that mean?
With the silver.
Yeah, with silver,
With
right?
silver.
With silver, yeah, with silver, right? With silver, right? Lo tit amel. Okay, this is kind of a strange word, but it shows Hashem's intention here.
Pael.
It is. Very good, very good. The binyan is hit pa'el. Oh, wait, go back. 999. Excuse me. So the binyan, let me fix my PowerPoint. Hit pa'el, very good. Hit pa'el. And sister, she noticed there's the to here, characteristic of hit pa'el. And you also have the dagesh and the a, right? The hit.
Rabbi, is it related to the word Amar or Omer? The chief?
It is.
Amar.
It is. The Omer. The Omer,
Really?
right? Remember the Omer count?
Omer, the Omer.
So what is the Omer originally in ancient days? That's very good. Cool. You're going to figure it out. What is the Omer in ancient days? Omer. Today we just count, right? But what were they doing in ancient days? What was the Omer? You guys remember?
Isn't it a measurement?
Yes. It's a measurement of
Sheaf.
what? It's a sheaf, yes.
Bind.
It's
Bind.
a sheaf.
Bind.
Yeah, that's right. It's your crop
I
tied
think
together
bind
in a
is-
certain size is an Omer. So they would bring
This
that
binding
Omer up
force,
and
or
give
I
it to
think-
the Kohanim. Yeah, very good. Okay, now this is a verb. This is a verb. So tit Omer, it means to trade as an Omer, for example, right? Like to trade as in agricultural trading, bartering, etc., right? So you shall not sell her for money. Kesef sometimes can be more general. Silver can mean money, right? For money, nor shall you trade her like as agriculture, like she's some livestock or something, right? You have to treat her humanely. It's a human being. She's not a cow or something, right? So lo tit amer. It's very fascinating the language the Torah is using here. Right? There's other words for sell, right? It actually could have, we have shiber also, which is to sell grain or whatever, but it's using this one like oh tit amer. To me, it makes me think of the omer that's bound, right? So like you don't put her back in chains and then sell her like a slave or something. Ba. Lo tit amer ba. Do you guys see the imagery, how beautiful it is? The Torah, in as few words as possible, is showing how you're not to treat her this way. Not for money, and not trading her like agricultural trading. Tachat asher ini tach. Okay? What's tachat mean? Tachat.
Instead or under?
Yeah, that's
Under.
right.
Under.
Yeah.
Ano?
Instead, under, in place, all these sorts of things, right? Okay? So that's, it can have a lot of meanings. Tachat. This is actually one, if you don't remember this word, if you've ever heard American Jews using Yiddish at all, right? It's pretty popular in American culture. There's a lot of Yiddish words that the Gentiles know also, right? So tuchas, we have this word tuchas. Tuchas, it's the part that's underneath you. It's your butt. The buttocks is the tuchas. Sit on your tuchas, right? So tachat is under, after, can mean after sometimes. After, instead, like in place of, instead, or in place of, in place. Like, which brother pleads with Yosef HaTzadik, please don't take Binyamin, take me to be your slave instead. Which brother is that? You guys remember?
Judah.
Yeah,
Judah.
Yehuda.
Yeah,
Judah.
and he uses this word, tachat, instead, in place of him, right? I will be your slave in place of him. Tachat, okay? So, in Hebrew understanding, it's literally under, right? For something to be under something else, it's instead, right? So, in this case, more like after. After, asher, is very hard to translate literally. You don't want to say whom, you know. So just say which, ayini tah, okay? Who recognizes this verb? Anybody recognize this? So I'll mark the suffix.
Ana.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The verb is anna. And what does anna mean? Do you know? Anna.
Bow down or to prostrate or to answer. I think.
Okay, that's anna. That's a
That's
different
like in the
root.
Yom
That's a
Kippur.
different root that looks the
Ah,
same. You mixed a couple. You're right. Ama is to answer, but that's a different one. There is one where it means to bow down, right? You're right. It can mean to bow down, and usually we get a derivative from that, the metaphorical meaning, to humble, humble, right? To afflict. The idea is he slept with her already. He's humbled her. Maybe it was an affliction.
Okay, Rab. So just like in the Yom HaKippurim, ve'enitem et nafshotechem, and you shall humble
Yes.
your soul. But
Yeah.
in this context, is to afflict.
Yeah, very good. Very nice conduction there. So you guys see how the context really is influencing how we translate this word, right? So, okay. So after you have afflicted her, and because it's Lamed Hey, Doc, you recognize this pattern we had earlier we were talking about? We have the Yod coming here before the second person form, and then the Hey, like in Tav, right?
That's a Piel.
No.
I'm
it's
sorry.
Lamed Hey.
I'm sorry, the hay.
Yeah. It's like a false positive for Hefil, right? So just trying to show how we know that it's not. It does look like
No.
Hefil. It does at first, yeah. But then there's some other weird stuff happening for it not to be Hefil. Look, we have a strong dagesh in the second root letter, and that doesn't happen in Hefil, right? So that can be your clue. So what binyan is this with the strong dagesh in the second letter?
That's a
Piel.
Piel.
Very good.
Piel.
Piel, that's right. So you have afflicted her, right? After you have afflicted her. Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, we got about 15 minutes left. Good. I think we might even make it through the whole first Aliya. Amazing.
Rabbi,
Yes.
is it okay for to go back to the previous slide? I forgot to screen it take a
Sure.
screenshot.
Sure, no problem. I'll be posting this on YouTube also, so if you want to watch it again later.
Ah,
put it on the
okay.
feeds, yeah.
Oh.
Yep, I'll be posting
Yeah, thank you.
I like to post our Aliya Yomi stuff. I think it's helpful for people getting immersed. Actually, one of my visions is within the next 2 years to have the entire Torah recorded in this way, stepping through, explaining, discussing. So anybody who wants to go through that can go through the entire, first 5 books. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, take your shot. And I always upload it in HD, so you can always adjust your settings. If it comes across blurry in YouTube, just click the gearbox and change it to HD, high definition, and then you'll get that. But we also do lower definition. You can choose which one you want, in case you have bad internet or something. Okay, can I change? Good.
Rabbi, regarding
Yes.
the verse 13, is it
Yes.
vihayita or
Thank you.
vihayta?
Verse 13.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
The third to
actually
the last
Yeah,
word.
yeah. It's
Vihayita?
vihayita. Yeah, you're right. Vihayita. Yep. Yes,
Vihayita.
vihayita. Yep.
To the.
Yeah, good. Good question. Okay. All right, I'm gonna change back now. I oftentimes blow through that though. The hayata. Okay, and regarding verse 14, we have an interesting comment from Rabbi Gersonides, and he says that regarding you must release her outright, because idolatry is forbidden in the land, meaning the land of Israel. It is clear that she cannot be released until she promises not to worship idols, not to do avodah zarah, and to observe the other Noahide laws. That is, to become a monotheist. She has to become at least a gerah. She does not have to become a daughter of Israel, but she has to at least become a gerah. And then this is veshilachta lenafsha. He's interpreting this to mean that you will release her to her own power in the land, only if she promises not to be an idolater. Right? We can't have idolaters running around the land corrupting everybody. So that's Gersonides. Okay.